Okay, team, welcome back to the Man That Can Project podcast. Today's episode is a podcast I did about 6 weeks ago when I was in Bali with Nash, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you guys. One of the things we really focused on was investing in yourself and overcoming problems through challenging yourself to grow and seeking different perspectives. So we also talked a lot of other interesting things, so definitely tune into that. For those who are wanting to learn more about what we got on in 2020, we're running the first 6 Pillars to Positive Mental Health workshop. It's a 2-day workshop in Brisbane. You can find more information about that on the manthatcanproject.com. So definitely head over to the website and book your spot. We've got limited spaces available.
Do you prefer Lachlan or Lockie?
Lockie's fine.
Lockie? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
So Lockie, Stuart, thank you so much for joining us on the Thoughts on Purpose podcast, man.
Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to be here.
Brilliant, brother. Guys, Lockie is a coach and a mentor. He's the founder of the Man That Can Project. And through his work, he's dedicated to supporting men live with confidence and purpose. It's a mission that's very near and dear to my heart too, Lockie. So thanks for all you do. Thanks for the way you show up in the world. And thanks for being here today, man. Really do appreciate it.
I appreciate being on here, man. It's an honor to be asked on here. I know we've gone back and forth with conversation and now it's finally happened. So I'm excited, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, man, absolutely. So you're in Bali at the moment. You were just telling me you're training for the CrossFit. What was the exact term?
Open. Yeah. Training for the CrossFit Open, which is it starts on the 10th of October.
Yep.
So excellent. Far away.
That's brilliant. And fitness and health is a huge part of your life there, brother. I've noticed on your social media accounts.
Yeah, mate, it's extremely important. It's something I neglected, as I just touched on with you. Mm-hmm. I retired professionally back in 2012 or 13 or something like that, and then just played a little bit of footy here and there. But 2014 was sort of that where I just cut ties. So I had 2014 to 2017 where I didn't do any sport. So I noticed, that was sort of the toughest periods of my life. And so now it's sort of like something that's just as important to me as brushing my teeth.
Wow.
It's a vital routine and habit.
That's full on. And I can see that definitely in the way you show up. It's a great contrast because the work you do with guys, it's all around the mind and actually developing yourself as being, and seeing your progression over I don't know how long, it must have been close to years I've followed you now, and I've seen your progression in fitness. It's just incredible, your dedication, the way you show up. And I think you bring that to guys in other areas of their life as well. You're able to translate that to people, which is really powerful. So looking forward to diving into that with you, man, and how you get your mentality right to get it in the game. And I'm looking forward to this conversation, man.
So am I, man. It's going to be awesome.
Yep, absolutely. So, you touched that you had a bit of a low spot there when you kind of gave up rugby. You're educating people on finding more purpose in their life, building confidence. So there's obviously been a time in your life where you felt you didn't have either of those, I'm guessing. Yep. So yeah. So can you kind of explain to us what that time was like and what you were going through, just to sort of paint a picture for people where you were and will progress to where you are now?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. I think when that all happened, the confidence and the purpose ended when I lost my identity as the rugby player. So I went from feeling like I'd achieved everything that I was building towards as a young man, and then when that finished up, I was sort of left out there with no real idea of who the hell I was outside of the rugby player, and I lost all the things that went with that. I lost the recognition. I lost the desire to show up for something bigger than myself every day, which is obviously training and the team, and the burning desire to want to be the best. And so when that sort of ended, I was just Lockie, and I didn't really have any of who that was, and I didn't have any confidence in my ability to do other things outside of, throw a footy around or run really fast. That was what, if you put me on the running track or if you put me on the footy field, I was fairly confident. Anything else in my life, I was like, no idea here, because I hadn't spent the time focusing on that, and I guess being intentional with that and trying to be better. So when I was in that point, I was sort of where I hit rock bottom, and that rock bottom period went from, drugs, alcohol, self-sabotaging, and really just I was screaming out for help in a weird way. Didn't have the skills to be able to reach out and ask for help. Mm-hmm. So I just did it through, abuse and all that kind of stuff, which, looking back in my own weird way, it was me screaming out for help, but I didn't really have anyone around me who saw it for what it was. So I think, going into why I want to help men build confidence and why I want to help men find their purpose. And, and we'll touch on purpose a little bit in a minute, because I think it's something that everyone's trying to find purpose, but that's an interesting conversation in itself. Mm-hmm. But having the confidence to know that men, as we are, and goes for women as well, we all have the ability to learn, grow and develop as we've always done. But because it's so foreign to us, we spend the first 18 years of our life learning, growing and developing, but it's generally around stuff that the schooling system teaches us, right? Mm-hmm. We don't learn taxes. We don't learn how to communicate properly. We learn how to speak English, but we don't really learn how to talk, right? And, and that talk comes back to talk with ourselves as well, our internal dialogue and how we communicate. So there's a lot of men running around at the moment who lack self-confidence because they don't understand just how incredible they are to have learnt, the things that they've learnt to be where they currently are. They don't have the self-esteem because we don't know how to communicate. When we fail and get frustrated, or, we walk away from something because we haven't communicated it properly, we just keep beating ourselves down and down and down. And we just end up being this burning ball of anger and resentment, which is a lot of the men that I work with are in that position. And that's obviously where I was. So my belief is that if we can reinstill confidence in men, so confidence to be their authentic self, and that means communicating how they feel, lights them up, aligns with them, whatever that looks like, the confidence to pursue things that they believe in and are passionate about, the confidence to stand strong in a relationship, because you see it time and time again, men will stay in relationships just because, sorry, this is females as well, so I'm not just saying men, but will stay in relationships just because they've been in it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and there's no alignment there, so they're miserable. Mm-hmm. So it's helping give men the confidence back to take control of their life.
Yep.
And then we go to the purpose side, which is, I think, the fun thing. I don't know whether you've seen a lot of the talk around, is like everyone's trying to find their purpose, and they think it's like this golden pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, which it is if you find it. And I don't feel everyone will find it. I truly believe not everyone will. And I didn't think everyone's destined to find it. Mm-hmm. I think, someone's purpose could be pretty much trying to pursue a purpose. I think it gives you purpose.
Yep.
And it's really identifying it. But I think, purpose is put up on this pedestal as, something that's going to ultimately change the world, like, an Elon Musk or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I believe, whatever, if someone finds something bigger than themselves to get themselves out of bed every day, that's purpose. It doesn't have to be this incredible thing that, is going to woo everyone. My purpose 4 years ago when I found footy was just to get off the drugs and to find myself. That was, and it's slowly evolved. And and when I share my story, people ask, how'd you get to where you are now? And it's like, I've done Uber driving, I've done bricklaying, I've been a carpenter, I've been a dish pig. I've done all these things. And as soon as I didn't like them, I left. I didn't sit in one position and be like, oh, maybe I should try something else. Maybe I shouldn't. I was just like, nah, that's done. And I would take away what I enjoyed from that role and what I didn't enjoy from that role. Then I would go searching for the next thing that sort of had what I enjoyed and hopefully gave me something else that I enjoyed. Mm-hmm. And as my purpose was just finding something that I enjoyed doing every day. And then all of a sudden, I'm where I am now, which is what I feel my purpose is right now, which is, as you touched on before, helping men to improve their confidence and find more purpose in their life. Mm-hmm.
Powerful stuff, man. So you've kind of narrowed that down through your own journey of like actually what you struggled with. Is that how you've kind of tapped into the work you're doing now? You're like, this is who I want to show up as. This is how I want to support people. Is that sort of the process you've done there?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's all because I can't, I'm massive. Integrity is one of my highest values, and congruency. I can't stand there and say, this is going to work for you if I haven't personally done it myself. And I'll never tell people to do something that I haven't personally done before. Even if I know it can work, I could say, go try it for yourself, but I can't stand behind it and say, I did. But this is my experience. These are the things that I experienced. This is what I went through. These are the sort of things that popped up, and this is how I overcame it. And then, trying to bring awareness into those men's life is, because ultimately there's, let's even say right now, I'm in Bali, the way to the beach is the same for everyone if you get on the road, but everyone's experience is going to be different going there. Like you might have to dodge a pothole, you might have to, might get a bug in your eye. There's all these things. And I think, ultimately at the end of the day, it's up to each of us to put our hand up and go, right, for me to work out how this is going to best work for me, I have to just take that step. You can get guidance as much as you want, but yeah, moving forward is the way to do it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I love it. So I'm curious, Lockie, so now that you've obviously on the other side of all this and you're really making progress and you're living a purposeful life, what you believe is the most purposeful life, can you look back on those times where you were really down and out, so you sort of left rugby? Can you look back on those times now and say with kind of conviction, I guess, that those times were necessary for you to get to where you are today? And I ask this question simply to act as a light at the end of the tunnel for people who might be going through a challenging time.
Yep. Yeah, I think 1000%. I think, and I'll share a story. I was having a chat with a guy at breakfast 2 days ago. And he was saying, do you feel people who break through and empower others need to have had some kind of adversity in their life? And it was actually a great question. Now, after sort of having the discussion, I don't think so. I think adversity, can completely ruin some people and send them way off track. And it can really light a candle under some people to just, get going to where they want to go and get out of that sort of pain point, right? Because no one likes being in pain. It's just, and then there's the other side of the fence where there's, I've met so many incredible people who haven't come from adversity. They've just been like, I want to be better. And you can learn from people's experiences, or you can learn from your own experiences, or both. Ideally, it's probably better to learn from other people's experiences, because then you don't have to go through it, right? But most of us unfortunately don't make that change. And I was one of those people who didn't, deep down, when I was going through all the drugs and the alcohol and stuff, I woke up, that many mornings where I'd done something stupid or was hungover or whatever, and I was just sitting there. I still remember one time I was sitting in the gutter and I was like, I feel like I'm so much better than this, and I should be doing so much better than this, right? And I kept having my own experiences, and there was never that sort of that one thing to make me go, right, I'm going to do whatever it takes to change it, until there was, which was after that was probably 4 years later. That significant event. So for me to get to where I was, it's definitely been all my life experience, but I also believe that every single one of us, yourself included, we've all had some kind of adversity, and we can't compare it, right? Like, I was saying to the guy this morning, like, if, my partner, she's from PNG. So in PNG, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on with, like, they still burn witches and, what they believe is witches, like, and like their value on life is non-existent. Right? They'll chop someone's head off if they need to. Whereas, so for someone growing up seeing that, they would, eventually just, that's normal. But for me, if I saw that, I would freak out, and that's crazy, right? Probably for you and probably for a lot of people. So I think what adversity is for each individual is their own journey, based around, our past experiences and what we've been exposed to. So I think if everyone took the time to reflect on their life, they would have overcome some adversity in some way. And if they also then looked at that journey and were like, right, well, what can I learn from my own adversity? Everyone can have these massive breakthroughs, because it's just the learnings we want from that adversity. It doesn't matter how, big it's perceived as, in my opinion.
Absolutely, man. I would actually well, this has been my observation, and I've heard a few other people say it as well, but life has adversity. Like, adversity is part of life. It's going to happen. And if you're not experiencing adversity, then, I'll say it in a more elegant way. You need to experience some level of adversity to a degree to actually grow. And the key is, I believe, is to actually go out and choose adversity that is toward or in a direction that you want to go, because life will throw it at you no matter what. And when it's adversity to do with nothing that you think is, to do with where you want to be, that's when it's really challenging. But if you can see your adversity is on the way, that's when you're able to handle it. And, the beautiful thing is just a perspective thing. And, even if you've got a particular challenge and it's nothing to do with where you want to be, you can actually just reframe it and use it. So,
yeah. So it's all perspective. And that's why fitness is such a important part for me, because fitness is adversity, right? Like, training for a sport is an adversity, right? Every time you lift a heavier weight, or you have an injury, or you don't eat well, you don't sleep well, that's adversity.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
to the end goal. And you can take those lessons and fine tuning things to other aspects of your life, whether it's your business, your relationship, growing as a man.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, what happened when I got injured? I didn't stop training completely. I just rehabilitated myself and worked on another weakness.
Mm-hmm.
What happened, in my business when that didn't work for me? I didn't just close the business down. I tried something different and it came at it from a different angle. Like, we got to continually problem solve.
Yep.
If we want to get the result, rather than just waving the white flag and being like, I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Man, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you're not done until you take that last breath, man. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So let's talk about toxic masculinity. This is a bit of a deep topic, but I want to touch on it simply because I hear a lot of guys. It was funny. I heard a young guy. I was kind of mentioning that I do coaching and everything to this young guy the other day, and he was sort of shaking his head and he's like, yeah, I know this. We've got to do something about this toxic masculinity. And I hear a lot of people, just kind of sparked me. And I was thinking, I wonder what he thinks toxic masculinity is. But like, I've got my opinion of it, but you're working with a lot of men, and I'm curious what your perspective is on toxic masculinity.
Yeah. Toxic masculinity. I don't think it's just toxic masculinity. I think it's just toxic behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Like, I believe, if you, and this works on both sides of the fence, because there's women who, act the same way. And of
course,
if you toxic masculinity is like how men wolf whistle at women and, do all this disgusting stuff. And I'm like, I've seen it on both sides of the fence. And that's not just because you're a male that you do that. Mm-hmm. It's a fucking act. Am I allowed to swear, by the way?
Oh man.
Sorry.
Go for gold.
Yeah, sorry. I've been holding it in. It's an action. And, I put my hand up. I've done all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
I've been one of those, toxic masculine pigs that, that's being portrayed, but that wasn't because I was a man, because I'm still a man right now. I'm still the same person. I just view things in a different perspective. And my environment has changed dramatically, and the way I perceive things. Whereas I know if I were to go back to my old environment, those things are still acted upon, and they're also received by the opposite sex, and that works both ways. Mm-hmm. So I personally, when I hear toxic masculinity, I think it's a toxic environment. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel that men, actually I speak strongly about this, I don't feel that men should be tossed under that blanket. It's a stereotype now that if you go hang out at the pub with boys, you're going to generally be slandering women and carrying on like an idiot. Mm-hmm. Whereas I've been at the pub plenty of times right now, not right now, but like in the past 4 years, where we actually have really incredibly connected conversation.
Yep, absolutely.
So I think it's, if we don't allow the breathing space, and if we don't shift what is actually happening here, it's because it's not just the men, it's the environment, it's a lot of stuff that needs to be learned. It's like, okay, well, if this toxic masculinity is happening, if men are wolf whistling, if men are degrading women, if men are acting like pigs, what's causing that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because those men can be saved.
Yep.
But if you keep saying that's a toxic fucking man, they're going to attach themselves to the stereotypes of what that is. rather than going, all right, well, the reason for this person's actions, and if it's a female as well, the reason for her actions is they're hurting.
Yep.
There's something that's being missed here. And it's not just men. It's a fucking whole environmental thing.
Yep. Man, it's a great answer. And I'm so glad you've touched on a heap of points I'm very passionate about as well. Like you're so right. Like those, I believe to the most, for the most part, people are doing the best they know. And, if people know better, they'll do better. And no one wants to feel lousy. No one wants to be labeled like that. And that's why I think the work you're doing is so powerful, man, because it's just giving people that new awareness of what's possible, what they can actually do, how to process emotion more effectively. So in saying all that, Lockie, like, what's your idea? And I'm talking about men specifically, but this is very, this interview is very relevant to women as well. Talking about men a lot because you're obviously a men's coach. Just out of curiosity, do you work with women as well?
I have worked with women. I've actually just finished, 2 weeks ago, finished up with a female client. I do, but it's something I'm sort of still steering further away from. I just find, I think in the future, I'd love to do just workshops where they both get to come together so I can help them understand each other's positioning. And I'm working with a couple at the moment, but I think, as I continue to grow and expand, it's just really the man. Because when I picture myself, if I had kids, and I was in a relationship where I was talking about all that sort of stuff prior, and I'm like, if I had kids, I would have been this angry, resentful dude who wouldn't have known how to communicate with his kids, probably would have been yelling and screaming all the time like I always did, probably would have been drunk. And I'm like, there's so many men out there like that, and I don't see them as bad people. I just feel like they have bad habits, right? And I don't want men to go home and, because there are men who go out there and physically abuse their partners, right? They might even physically abuse their kids. And that to me is just, it's a fucking terrible act, but they're hurting and there's something that they need to deal with. So I feel if I can just help men, I know it's going to, have that ripple effect into families as well. Because I know I can't help everyone. So I just want to focus on, the pain point that I had, which was who I was as a person. Whereas I know I hurt a lot of women in the past. I know I've hurt a lot of mates. I know I've been a prick. So if I can just have that part and really just talk to the men, then I don't have to change my languaging. I can be my authentic self rather than trying to resonate with women. And I get messages from ladies all the time saying, "Can you work with my husband?" I'm like, I'd love to, but when the time's right, like, he's got to message me. You can't force him to change, or he's going to be even more resentful because you're telling him he's got a problem.
Yeah, great insights, man. And so in saying all that, what do you believe makes a great man? Like you've touched on some things already, like being authentic. In today's world, how can men, like any men listening to this, and say women who might have sons or, brothers, whatever, and they've got to give them advice, how can they steer them in a direction that is like being a beneficial presence on the planet, essentially? It's a deep question. I get it. Yeah. I was curious of your opinion.
That's a phenomenal question. So
for yourself, let's break it down even further. Again, going to your own experience of.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm so grateful, and people talk, because I spoke to a mum last week, and she was like, my 20-year-old son, and I was like, I was doing similar things, and I know parents care, about, if kids are going to, in this example, like take their own life and do all that sort of stuff. And from my own experience, my parents were both amazing in the fact that mum knew I was doing heaps of stupid shit. And she just let me walk my own path. She offered advice all the time, but she obviously did what most parents do and ground you and do all that sort of stuff. But never once was she just like, "You're a fuck up." Like, she allowed me to continuously make my own mistakes until I realized there's more to it. And I think one thing, and the reason why I started the Man That Can project was when I was in Europe at Christmas. I was like, what would be the one thing that would have changed my life so much earlier? And that would have been exposing myself to an environment of men that from all walks of life, so I could connect with, successful people, so that I could connect with young people who are going through what I'm going through, so I could connect to the 70-year-old man and hear their stories and see that we're all going through similar shit, no matter how we perceive them. Because when I was lost, and if I was talking to my son or my kid, I would want them to be in that environment, because you realize we've all got the same struggles. We're all going through the same stuff. It doesn't matter what it looks like on the outside or what it looks like on Instagram, right? There's that need for community, and there's that need to be in an environment where you're going to be challenged and you feel like you belong. And as men, we really struggle to do that now, because we're not connected anymore. Right? We're sitting in a room, drinking beer, talking about footy, talking about women, talking about work, but we're never actually talking about what's really going on. So, for the people listening, it would be try and get in some kind of environment. And that's why I think what you're doing here with the podcast is incredible, because it's a tool. You can pass it on, and it's not pushing it saying you need help. It's like, hey, I just listened to this cool episode and they were talking about X, Y, Z. I think you might get a lot out of it. Have a listen to it. Or, an Instagram post, have a read of this. Like, it's a really non-forceful way of exposing people to something different. Because I think, so where I was going with that was, when I was, when I'd come back and I was working as a chippy, I was like, I'm never going to be able to be the person that I, deep down, I was saying before, I felt like I was here for something bigger and I could do something. But I just thought, because I was living in Toowoomba, in a small town, and I didn't have a network of successful people, I was never going to be able to be that person. So I just thought it was like, well, these guys got lucky, the luck of the draw. But you can create your environment, right? And that's what, why the Man That Can is, I want people to be able to understand that, hey, your network can completely change your life, and your environment can completely change your life. And you can change your environment whenever you like, which is powerful. So that was sort of all over the place, but stuff was coming into the head at all points.
I love it. Good flow. So kind of revisiting the question, I'm curious for yourself, like as far as like an energy showing up every single day, how do you sort of look at your life and say, okay, to be the best version of myself, to be a really like beneficial presence, I love that kind of term, beneficial presence on the planet, how do I show up? And let's imagine that young guy's asking you that question, or a younger version of yourself is asking you that question, and you're going to give them advice. 2-3 things they could do in a day to
definitely. I think being your authentic self and find out what that is. So obviously, so that's the part of the question I forgot to answer before. Like, what is your definition of a man, or whatever that was? I think it's being authentic to who you are. I feel as long as you can be true to yourself and be, really enjoy your own presence, and then also be compassionate and empathetic to those around you. And I guess just come from a place where you want people to achieve all the stuff that they want, and whatever that looks like for you as a dude, is where you want to go. So for me, and I'm not perfect every day, and there's definitely days where I don't feel like I'm showing up as my best self, and I'm having that mental battle. So I want to make sure I get that clear, so people don't just go, "Oh, I'll do this and I'll be sweet forever." It doesn't work like that for me. For me, I make sure I've got, like, exercise has to be a non-negotiable, because if I feel strong and if I know I've moved my body, then I know I'm going to feel more confident in who I am, right? And it also helps me have progress. And when I feel like I'm progressing, I feel like I'm, adding value to myself, if not, other people. Then morning routine, like my morning routines are non-negotiable, or it's a part of all of that. So how I prep myself for the day, I have to read. I have to feel like I'm growing. So it's reading or podcast, whatever it is. But for me, it's reading, because if I'm on my phone, I'm on Instagram and everything else. I do my gratitudes and affirmations. So my affirmations are generally 3 things that I'm really trying to embody and grow into. Okay. And then I'll look at my diary for the day and set my intention. So generally I won't do any more than 3 coaching clients a day. And I'll make sure I have my intention set for how I want them to walk away from that interaction. I also then make sure that I cover every interaction that I have. I don't have like a hierarchy, and that's something I feel we do, and I definitely do. I always have a hierarchy, which, whether it's because of how I'm conditioned. So I try to be mindful that there is no hierarchy, that I talk to the bin man just as kindly and as intentively as I would, someone who could potentially blow my business up or something like that. Does that make sense? So I make sure that I remind myself of that daily, because it's really easy to be like, oh, I can get something from them. And that's for me. So I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that guy.
Okay. So that's really interesting. Sorry, let's just tap into that a bit more. So what did you say? There's no hierarchy.
Yeah. Of people. So I feel as men, we're trying to, and as people, we're trying to climb the ladder. We want to have the power. Mm-hmm. Right. But we get to also choose who has the power. Mm-hmm. And the moment, to me, I was actually talking about this at the beach before. I was like, isn't it interesting now with Instagram, how people who look good in bikinis have a lot of power and a lot of influence. But if you were to have a conversation with I'm not going to pull a statistic, but I feel they probably wouldn't add much value to me. Mm-hmm. And I get that's the world we live in, but I also go, okay, well, imagine if Instagram was a platform, and I know it's never going to happen, but where everyone had equal influence and equal power. Mm-hmm. And I'm not, everyone has a right to influence in whatever they're good at. So, for me, I don't care so much about that. That's gone off topic, but mm-hmm. I want to make sure that everyone who has a conversation with me walks away going, holy shit, that guy was fully invested and he's asked me questions that I've never even thought about myself. And I don't mm-hmm. care. And I don't care whether it's literally the guy who drops my packages off once or twice a week, or whether it's, someone who I'm going into a business meeting with. I treat everyone equally. And that's not something that comes naturally to me. That's something that I have to remind myself of a lot, because mm-hmm. it's easy and especially for me over the last sort of 6 months, as my business is really, and my brand's really built momentum, I've noticed myself doing that. And I don't do it deliberately. It just, it just happens. And I want to be really mindful of, as, things continue to progress, I don't become someone who, wouldn't give myself 5 years ago the time of day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I love that. I love that. Always, always act like you're a beginner.
Yeah.
Have the mindset of humility. That's huge. You hear so many successful people, true successful people, saying that, like, always act like you're a student, always be the one sitting in the back of the room. Key mentalities. I really, really admire those. You spoke about, how that kind of stereotypical image of a man, like maybe being at the pub and all that good stuff, it kind of gets labeled as in that they might be having toxic conversations. But, like you said yourself, you've had some great conversations hanging out in particular environments. I just want to really shed some light on, like, the power of conversation for men and actually processing emotion. I think you read Lewis Howes. I seem to remember you having a post up Lewis Howes' book, Mask of Masculinity. And in that book, I remember he speaks about a study, I believe it was in Germany, where they surveyed men and women. And they kind of came to the conclusion pretty broadly that women talk, men die. And because there's so much unprocessed emotion, and it's a true thing, because, emotions are a chemical reaction in the body. The chemical doesn't get processed, builds up and up and up, ends up in a disease. So really shine some light on the power of having conversations and how guys can start doing that. And what should guys be talking about more of, do you believe?
That's a great question. I think what's really going on, I think, and it takes it'll take one man to put his hand up to open that, whether you say open a space or however it is. But what I've noticed from our events, at the first 4, it was really hard for men to open up, and now it's like a waterfall. You might have one guy to share something, and then it's just a waterfall of guys sharing mm-hmm. what they're going through. It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. So I think, and one of my clients the other day, he went for a lunch with his mate, and he just told him how he was working with me and what he was working on. And all of a sudden, my client didn't even realize this. His mates go, "Oh, well, man, I'm dealing with this." And all of it, I was like, "Mate, you realize you just gave him permission to share what's really going on?" Mm-hmm. And so by learning to ask better questions, so rather than saying, "How you going?" because you can say good, mm-hmm. say, "What's the greatest thing that's happened to you this week?" And, even when I say that, I'm like, that sounds goofy. Like, from where I've come from, a question like that. But learning to ask better questions will give you better answers, or will open up the floor for someone to really, talk about what's going on. And or even if you put yourself in, I feel the reason why I get to have a lot of these conversations is because I share everything that's going on in my life. I've shared everything that's happened, and I'm always the first to put my hand up and share something when stuff's not going right in my life, because I haven't nailed it. I'm still not perfect, and I still have a lot of challenges and struggles and limiting beliefs and stuff like that. But I'm like every other man. I'm trying to talk about it, get some different perspectives, and break through it. So I think, to answer your question, I think as men, if we can learn to ask better questions, so literally you can Google questions. Now I've done that. I've read a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That is an incredible tool for learning to communicate better. And then go in with the mindset of there's no stupid questions. If you feel this burning desire to know something about someone, ask the question. Because how many times have you walked away from a conversation going, I wish I knew that about that person. I wish I actually understood that a bit better. If you don't understand something, ask. You're never going to get the answers unless you ask. And if you feel like a mate's struggling, ask. If you feel like they're lying, ask. Like, the art of communication is simple. We just overcomplicate it.
Yep.
I think,
Couldn't agree more.
And one of the other things, and I say this to the gentlemen that come to the events, I'm like, you don't have to wait once a month to come to one of these events. You can grab anyone's number here or grab your mate's number and go for a coffee and just go, right, today's challenge for me, my intention for this meeting or this coffee with my mate or this beer or this burger is to have a connected conversation. Yeah, talk about footy, talk about sport, talk about whatever. But when was the last time you asked about your mate's children or his partner? Guarantee you most dudes don't have a response for that.
Yep.
And when you start doing that, you start getting invested in a relationship and you start going, fuck, we're legit mates now.
That's it. Yeah, you actually have something deeper and richer in common. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I love that. Great insights there. So you kind of touched on this before, and obviously this is the Thoughts on Purpose podcast. I'm all about helping people develop the mentality so they can actually go and pursue their purpose. I asked this question to all my guests, and again, you did touch on this before, but want to go a bit deeper on it. Do you believe everyone on earth has the capacity and the ability to go out there and choose a purpose for their life and have a purpose for life if that's what they really want to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think when I said it before, I don't believe everyone will live their purpose. But right. I believe everyone has the ability. I think it's putting it into context. Yeah. Like, what a purpose is just something that's bigger than yourself. It's something that gets you up out of bed, and literally that for a while could be pursuing a purpose, like trying to find out what your purpose is. But there's probably different things you could do to find your purpose. If you're solely looking for purpose, you're going to miss a lot of stuff. If you're just looking for happiness and fulfillment in your day, start doing stuff that provides that, and you're going to find things that you enjoy. That you're going to find things that you don't enjoy. You're going to meet people that you're like, this person seems like my best mate already, and you're going to meet people that you're like, never want to see you again. So I think if you choose to focus on what can make you happy right now, and what can you can enjoy right now, you're going to get much closer to finding your purpose than if you're purely just pursuing your purpose.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, it's good, man. I love that, and I totally agree. Humans have this capacity, the gift of foresight, where we can sit down and we can plan something out. We can come up with something, and we can go and connect ourselves to that. The capacity to forward think and forward plan is something that kind of separates us from, as far as we know, all other animals. And I think the more people use that capacity, the richer their life will be. So I totally resonate with what you're saying, man.
And everyone has the ability, and that's the thing. Like, I'm nothing special. None of us we're unique. We're not special. There's nothing cooler or more unique about myself that other men don't have. We all have the ability. It's just whether you're willing to put the work in.
Yeah.
Because 5 years ago, I thought I was dumb as dog shit outside of sport. Like, I legitimately believed that. I thought I was fucked. And now I couldn't be further from that belief. Wow. Because I was willing to put the work in.
Wow. So that really brings me to another question. So how did you develop the belief in yourself? So you thought you were, so far removed from being intelligent, and now you've developed this knowledge, and you're now educating people. You've kind of completely flipped or turned the tides there. So how have you done that as far as building that belief and as far as actually getting the knowledge?
I hated myself. That was I hated myself so much that it was like so a bit of the backstory was like, I was consuming that many recreational drugs. There was points where I was like, I didn't give a fuck if I woke up. And that was probably that lowest point. So it was either carry on like that or shift. And how I shifted, and I'm super grateful. A good mate of mine, Tommy Crockett, who I was just playing footy with, he gave me a book. Andy gave me a book called The Four Agreements. And I read that book and I hated it. It was boring, but I learned a lot from it. And when I finished it, I had that belief. I was like, holy shit, this book is, tiny. I was like, I learned so much from that. Imagine what else I can learn if I continue reading. Because I didn't read. Like, I never read. I didn't enjoy reading. And then all of a sudden, because I was desperate to change, I think the fact that I was learning, and I was like, oh, one book gave me that much knowledge. What else can I learn? And then I started just continually reading, and I started personal development. So it's helped me improve my vocabulary, how I articulate things. It's given me different perspectives on the world, on myself. And every time I read a book, there's a lot of stuff that I never use, but there's also one thing. If I can get one thing, it helps me, change myself. And I guess the knowledge people try to find the right thing before they start, whereas I've just gone and I failed. So and I guess why I'm so grateful for Instagram is I've documented my whole journey from day one. It's all there. So if you scroll back to the very beginning, you can see the dude I was. And you can watch me, then you can see me starting to write quote posts, and you can see me set my first video where I can't speak and I mumble and I'm in my yellow high vis at work. And, then I start trying to do, different kinds of videos, and I try to start articulating things in different ways. And that's all I've ever done. And everything I read and every time I have a breakthrough for myself personally, I get on the video and I share that because I want to put it in my own words. And that's all I ever do. I learn shit and I continue reading and I continue to try to challenge myself to be better and see things from a different perspective, and then I'll share it. And that's, all the knowledge that I've got is from reading or from having conversations, because it's even from this, I've learned so much from how well you ask questions. And I'm like, I want to ask some of these questions.
Thank you.
So yeah, I shifted that just from the burning desires. Like, I didn't want to keep waking up feeling like shit. And I was like, that one book, and this is why I give so many people I gift books, is because one book changed my life. Literally, that book changed my life. And it wasn't what was in it. It was the fact that I read it and I got through it, and that just lit that candle to be like, all right, if I can learn from one book, I can learn from another one.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. So you had the burning desire to change, and first of all, and then you just kept showing up. You kept showing up, you kept committing, and you just came from the mentality, even one idea can just move you that step further. And you just had that like repetitions in the gym, and that's really awesome. You broke that down, because I think a lot of people are hearing about transformation, all these incredible things, and they just think one day it's just going to all happen and you're going to feel purposeful, but it is a journey. And I'm so glad that you've kind of laid that out. So thanks for that. Out of curiosity, what is the book you've gifted the most? Is it The Four Agreements?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because and it's actually funny. So I gifted The Four Agreements because it was the perfect book for me for where I was. So I bought 50 copies last year and I've given them all away. But now I'm going to start, one thing I want to start shifting is, because I feel like I have read so many books in so many different areas, I want to start gifting books to people which I think will benefit them most, rather than just being like, here's the Four Agreements, here's the Four Agreements. So that's been a really cool learning experience for me, because I've gifted that book which changed my life, and some people have been like, that was horrendous. So yeah, so I think there's been a lot of learning just even in that for me, that it's like, okay, well, I do feel I have the ability to I've read enough books to realize I could probably match them up a bit better to really be meaningful, rather than just sort of getting lazy and be like, oh, here's a book.
Yeah. Very powerful, man. So apart from books, obviously you've had mentors, you were having a lot of conversations, powerful conversations with some amazing people. Has there been one standout person who's been a real mentor in your life, Lockie?
To be honest, it would be my parents. And I know it sounds weird, but like I've learned, and when I reflect, like I've had a lot of, can I talk about that, or would you prefer like people that have actually invested in?
No, please. It's whatever's true. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I feel like they've taught me so many lessons, and just and this is where I go back to learning from other people's experiences rather than your own, having to live that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned so many great things from them, and also so many things that I don't want in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to have that and see it up close and see how it is behind closed doors is incredible. And you can't get that from a lot of, even mentors, like people who come to me, and I'm completely honest with people. It's like, you can follow all my actions, but if you don't understand my physiology, how I think, how I act behind the scenes, why I do things, like it's going to be really hard for you to replicate the results.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to literally spend, the first 17 years of my life seeing my parents every day, I've learned some fucking incredible things. So it has to be them for sure.
Yeah. Love it. So you touched on before about some of your daily rituals, as far as, you said you exercise without fail. That's pretty much your oxygen. You've said you've got your morning ritual that you do. You're reading affirmations, you're learning. A lot of people I talk to, because I'm a huge fan of every single one of those things. A lot of people I talk to would look at those, because I understand you meditate as well.
Yep. Definitely. I was about to touch. Yeah.
Yep. A lot of people look at those particular things. They would call them soft. They'd call them, waste of time. How do you go about telling people to start incorporating these things in their life?
Well, it depends how badly they want the result, right? If you want to be financially successful, there's going to be things that you have to do that you probably don't do, or you think's weird, right? Like learning how to manage your money, learning how to save, learning how to invest.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with, if you want to be fucking if you want to improve your emotional intelligence and improve your confidence and your mental and emotional health, these are things you have to do. It doesn't matter how you view or perceive them.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. It's the same with nutrition. It's like people, or diets. People go, I want to look jacked and but I don't want to count calories, and I don't want to eat well, and I still want to drink beers on the weekend. It's like, well, good fucking luck.
Yep.
Like that's legitimately it. It's as blunt as that. If you want the result, do the work. And these are a few of the things, you mightn't like meditation. What is it you don't like about meditation? I can't sit still and practice my own thoughts. All right, well, let's try a different kind of meditation.
That's it.
Like people want the results, and people want the great confidence and the great emotional health and the great mental health, but they look at something as sissy. It's like, have you ever done it? No.
Yeah, that's it.
It's just got the yogi vibe around it. We'll change how you perceive it. Right? Like and then, I used to, so when I first started coaching, I was like, oh, you could try implementing this. And then I was like, well, wait, I do all this shit. That's why I have a better understanding of my mental and emotional health, because I sit there and I meditate. I used to think it was weird, and I still think, people probably think I'm weird and a yogi, but I'm like, I'm just a dude who values my health enough to prioritize it. Gratitudes, I definitely think weird, and it's like perceived as soft, but it's like, I'm just a man that actually values my emotional health. I want to be able to, be a great role model for the next generation, for my children, for my partner, and all that sort of stuff. So it's important to me. Do I necessarily like doing it every day? No, I don't. There's days where I'd rather get up early and go for a surf and not have to wait 20 minutes to do my routine.
Yep.
But I do it because I prioritize it, because I don't want to. I've been in a shit state. All of us have at some point in our life.
Yeah.
And these are just things, and I'm not saying you're never going to have that poor mindset again, or those down days. You still do, but this is just a way that I've found, for me, that gives me the best chance to show up as my best self. Because people go straight on to, straight to the doctor, and it's like, well, how's your nutrition? How's your sleep? How's your exercise? How's your, your routines and rituals to work on impacting your mind?
Mm-hmm.
They'll go, I haven't slept well for ages. I'm drinking 10 coffees a day. I'm eating a lot of sugar. I don't have a morning routine. It'll say, all right, well, how about we start there first? But that's not a quick fix. And people want to get out of pain really fast. But it's prevention, like all of these, gratitudes, affirmations, visualization, meditation, exercise, they're a prevention strategy, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They're all tools. So. Yeah. No, that's all right. They're all tools. So it's just like, we've both been carpenters.
Yeah.
And it's like you got your nail bag and you've got particular tools that you carry up on the roof with you. And, you don't want too much shit in your nail bag, but you want to make sure that you do have specific tools for the job that you're trying to complete. So all these little things are tools you clip in there and you can go and get the job done more effectively. And I say to people, because I also hear the flip side where people are making these rituals their life and they're like, oh, I didn't do my meditation, so I'm, falling behind today. I'm not as good. And they make they become so obsessed with rituals, but the rituals are the means to the end. And they're like your conditioning to actually go out and do your mission. And that's the way I see them. And they're incredible. Everything you're saying, it's so true. They're things that have been tried and tested, like things like meditation have been around for thousands of years and there's a reason they've lasted. And, we kind of live in a time in history where we can see enough kind of evidence of what works well for humans. And so people need to kind of open their minds and be willing to give new things a go.
Exactly. And, I would ask yourself if you're one of those men who are like, it's soft or it's wussy. It's like, where'd you adopt that belief from? Because you're the one holding on to it. You can change that.
Yep. Absolutely,
so
man.
We've got all the beliefs that we've got.
That's it. Yeah, we certainly weren't born with them. We picked them up somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Lockie, I want to ask you, this is a bit of a deeper question. Again, I like to kind of go a bit deep. So if I could wave a magic wand and, fast forward time and you were able to have the greatest impact possible, doing the work you love, inspiring the world in the greatest way you feel, possible and called to do.
Yep.
How would the world look different and how would people be showing up different as a consequence of that?
Wow. That is an unbelievable question. I feel men would be more emotionally connected. And the root cause would be, I just want men to stop committing suicide, simply put. So male suicide would definitely decrease. A ripple effect of that would be children would have their dads around for longer. Partners would have emotionally connected conversations and relationships that continue to thrive. And I think, the ripple effect of that is astronomical because men have such an important role in society that's been forgotten. We're not just the fucking breadwinner and the provider. We need to be there to bring that masculine energy. And obviously ladies can have masculine energy as well, but we serve a big purpose, and that's been shut off because we've forgotten how to communicate. And as a result of that, we're taking our own lives, and the ripple effect of that isn't generally very good, is it? So if I can change the world in one way, it'd be to stop male suicide, and the positive ripple effect of that would be having, solid families and communities again, where men are really contributing in a way that's more meaningful than money.
Yeah, that's so powerful, man. I love a great impact to be working toward. And I'm certain you, through the conversations you're having, you've already, impacted so many lives, and it's going to continue to build. And I'm excited to see you progress further.
Appreciate that.
So, we got to wind up before it looks like your shoulder's about to burst into flames there, brother.
Yeah, it feels nice.
It feels nice. I was thinking the Bali sun's probably cooking you.
Yeah, it is. I'll get an even tan.
That's awesome. So many more questions I'd love to chat to you about, but I want to be respectful of your time, man. I just want to thank you for coming on here and sharing your insights with us. Thank you for the way you show up in the world. Thank you for the, caring enough about men to do the work you do and, leave your comfort zone, because, it's not necessarily comfortable going out there and, doing something new, like shooting videos and creating content. It requires stepping up in a new way. So thank you for the way you show up. Thank you for, just caring about the world enough. So, because, my children are going to be here long after I'm here, and they'll be impacted by the work you do as well, man. So thanks very much.
Appreciate that. And mate, right back at you, man, because you're the one who's, it's a lot going on in your life at the moment. You're making the time to sit down with myself. You've prepared, you've asked incredible questions. That last one I've never been asked before. So for me, that's made it all worth it, and what you're doing is exactly the same, mate. Like, you're an incredible person. The way you show up and the consistency it's a ripple effect.
Appreciate it,
and your family and children are going to be proud, and I feel grateful to be a part of your journey.
Oh, thank you, man. I really do appreciate that. Now, just to wind up, I've got one last little question for you that might, cause us to dig a bit deeper again. But first of all, I want to get people to follow your work and follow what you're up to. So what's the best way for people to do that? Facebook, Instagram?
Instagram for sure, yeah. Yep. I'm so super active on that. So it's at Lachlan Stuart, spelled Stuart, or the Man That Can Project. Perfect. So either or, but I'm more active on my personal page.
No worries. And do you have a website for that as well?
Yep, themanThatCanProject.com.
Perfect. Excellent.
Yeah.
Both phenomenal pages on Instagram.
100%. I'll say yes.
Yeah, definitely. That works, man. So this last question, again, this is to really help people understand the impact you're committed to having and understand, what you're about. So I want you to imagine that you got a call from Mark Zuckerberg or whoever owns Instagram or Facebook nowadays. I don't keep up with all that stuff, but they gave you an opportunity and they said that you'd been selected to get your message out to billions of people, but you only had 10 minutes. You only had 10 minutes to come up with a message. What would that message be off the top of your head right now?
You are enough. That's probably my last Instagram post is you are enough. It's like we all have the tools, resources, everything we need inside us to make it happen. We all have the, that motivation switch we need. It's all there. Mm-hmm. We just got to want to action it. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be it. And I would be also seeking help doesn't mean you're broken. It just means you're ready for an update. So many men, we stay stagnant because we're like, I can't put my hand up and ask for help. There's something wrong with me. And that's the perception we've all been given, rather than being like, every time I ask for help, because I ask for help every day. Because I want to get better and I want to fast track it. Mm-hmm. It's the reason why people come to myself and you is because they want to fast track it. And it's not because they're broken. They just want to improve themselves.
That's right. Man, great answers. Thank you so much. Again, thanks so much for your time, brother. I really appreciated connecting with you. It was great to know you on a new level, and I look forward to connecting with you more in the future.
Likewise, man. I really, really once again value you and appreciate your time.
Good on you, Lockie.
Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.